Republic. Why aren't we having the conversations there? Why don't we put the train on those two rails and say, okay, where does the Constitution fail at this?
That's right. I think those are the things we need to strategize about as a country and to talk about honestly. And I really think that partisan politics in a way, that's why I said before, I'm not here in a partisan way. I've been in political parties before, and they have their serious limitations, I'll be quite frank with you. But the point is that we have a small country of 1.4 million.
Yeah, but Bahrain, with a population of 1.4 million, has a space program. And they put their own Bahrain. Yes, they put a satellite in space this week on a Bahrainian rocket.
Yes, well, it depends on what you place emphasis on.
I've always said that in Trinidad and Tobago, for some reason, I don't know if the younger generation of people are seeing it, we need a reset, a complete reset in Trinidad and Tobago.
I agree with that. We need a reset.
And the thing is, we need to start with a vision, where we want to go, and stop this 5-year, 10-year in government thing. Start with a vision, like Singapore and all the other places did. The reason why they are successful is they had a vision and they legislated. So start with a vision.
You want a
vision,
the vision of India. When information technology was new, India decided that they were going to move from the world's ghetto to being a major player in information technology. And they started, I remember the comedians making fun. India was the call center of the world. If you were calling for tech support, for anything, somebody, and they were making fun of their accents and all that sort of, no problem at all. But when over the 3-4 decades that passed, India became the repository of all major IT patterns. There are more IT patterns in India than anywhere else in the world. The top 10 companies on the planet, 9 of them, their CEOs are from India. They've followed through with that plan to the very end. So yes, we keep talking about Singapore, but not just Singapore. They have places close to home. They have the Bahamas, 407,000 people in one day. They had 30,000 cruise ship passengers dock one day.
And what we're saying is, we need, with a reset, we need to have a vision. This is where we want to be in, just like India and all the other places. This is where we want to be in the next 20 years. And stop talking about 2020 vision and all that kind of nonsense. This is where we want to be. This is where we will be. And, and legislate that. So whoever comes after, it will take a miracle to change that. That's where we go.
Are in education. I have been asking this. What guides tertiary education? What guides what the people are going to university to study? What is instructing the public? Where is the overall master plan of Trinidad's economy that in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, we're going to be in shipping? Exactly. We're going to be in shipping, we're going to be in tourism, we're going to be in agro-processing. Where are those plans so that universities and higher education could prepare and provide the workforce?
Could make a link, yes. Could make a link. You see, I mean, in anything that you do, you have to manage it, right? And for you to manage it, you must have an idea of where you are going, and then you have to make an assessment. Well, look, if I want to go there, where are we now? Okay, and what is the distance really that we have to travel, and the things that are required to make that journey and to get to that destination well, right? And who are the people who will take us there, you know? And that means that you have to have the knowledge, the skills, the competencies, and so on. So you need to have a view of where you're headed, your vision, if you want to call it that. You need to have a clinical assessment of where you are, which we don't have. We don't have a clear vision, and we don't have the statistical basis on which to say where we really are. We have an idea because we feel in it. And who are the people who will take you there? Well, it depends on their competence, their ability, etc. And that depends on merit. You were talking about India. One of the reasons that Indians have done so well in technology is because they built all these technical colleges, all these management institutions.
While America was relying on Silicon Valley, India became Silicon Valley.
Yes, and they infused the technology.
The smart money followed IT to India because that is where the labor and the knowledge base was coming from.
But more than that, they made it very competitive, and it was based totally on merit. So when you go in there and you come out there, you have been,
tried by fire.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly.
It's a very competitive. It's a competitive environment. You can't.
So you learn to work under pressure. You learn difficulties, challenges. You learn how to collaborate in order to get certain things done, and that is why they are in demand all over the world now. All the visas in the United States that are given to foreigners, most of them are given to very, very technically competent workers from India. So you have to make up your mind what you're doing with your country. And you talk about education. Education is the key. We have a primary school system that almost makes it inevitable that some people, even when they go to secondary school, will not succeed at all.
Exactly.
Doc, you're saying the right things. We've said that.
But we have to solve it.
I had a conversation with a security guard. I had a conversation with a security guard. And from the moment you start to speak to this gentleman, you could tell he has a brilliant mind. But he's a security guard. Because life steered him here. The doors that opened to him didn't allow him what the doors that opened for others of different races, different classes. Access is important.
And one of the critical reasons for that, and Dr. led it, is that our education system is somehow configured without much thought. The first thing is we does not understand that people learn differently.
Yeah, they are.
And so we put every child, whatever community you are in, you put every child in the same classroom without probably doing a VAC assessment or something to see how this child learns so that you can maximize his potential in his learning environment.
I love that phrase you just used, boy.
Right?
I love that phrase you just used, maximize potential.
Yeah.
That is my watchword.
And that's where we've gone wrong from the start. So our education system must be designed around a system like that, where we can get the best out of people, not taking into consideration where they came from, or what the color of the skin, or whether they're African or Indian, that kind of thing. And everybody.
No, I don't understand how the issue of race comes up in education. If you are educating,
for some reason it comes up.
If you are educating your children, and 20,000 children are born every year, I mean that is a reality. You mean you can manage your education business for 20,000 children who are born every year? I mean, I could never understand that.
Why
is
5 years down the road, the education system is not expecting that child?
Yes, exactly. That's the issue I'm raising. All right, so you're going to have 20,000 each year, and you need to put them. But you see, what has happened? Remember, I mean, when I was principal of the university, I brought Howard Gardner here. That is the multiple intelligence man who basically wrote about it from Harvard. And I brought him here to Trinidad and Tobago, and I exposed him not just to the people at the university, the faculty, but I invited schools. So we did it in a way that you could have 2,000, 2,500 people being exposed to him and so on. And then we brought, I forget his name, from University of East Anglia, to do critical thinking, not just with my faculty members at the time, but also teachers in the secondary school system, hoping to make a difference in the education system. But the truth is, what we did in the education system is that we inherited a colonial model. I am a product of the colonial model. Most of the people who are in high office now and running institutions in Trinidad and Tobago were products of the colonial model. But that colonial model really only catered for 20% of your children to be successful.
Yes.
And then we wanted universal primary education. We wanted universal secondary education. We wanted expanded tertiary education. But we kept the same colonial model.
We created seats, but we didn't create education.
That's right. Even as we expanded the system.
The mole never changed.
So what you expect?
The mole never changed.
I mean, it really is horrible to think about it, and the problems that we have now could have been foreseen. They could have also been planned for. They could have also been managed differently. But we just didn't do them, and now we have this horrible thing where 10,000 out of every generation, 10,000 a year.
50%.
Right? Yeah, 50% of everybody who enters the secondary
of that 20,000 that does an SCA exam,
that's
you
right.
lose 50%.
Those 10,000 now could hardly either go further or get an opportunity in the economic
Functionally
system.
illiterate.
Exactly.
So
and that is
how
unfortunate.
But how do you fix that? How do you fix that?
then-
How do you fix that when you have a government that found acres of land on Nelson Street, and Nelson Street that is so, the population is so held back. You found acres of land, you have so many empty buildings, and your solution is a panyard? Not a technical center, not homework supervision, not sport technology, not the ability to create and harness what he's saying, the opportunities of youth. You have to be able to identify that's a runner, that's an artist, that's a dancer, that's a doctor.
That is where your multiple talents come
That's
in.
where you need to
and
be.
you do it on merit. The same way you want, if you're running 100 yards, you want somebody who could run the fastest, right? 100 meters. If you're playing football, you want the fellas who could run well, who's strong, who have the skills, and you pull the team together, you build a team and so on. But all of these things are merit-based. And so, in order to make merit work in your school system, you have to cater to the talents of people.
Yes.
All right? Some people might be academically inclined. Some people might be technical wizards.
Yes.
Some people might be good at social issues. When I say so, I mean they might have an insight and develop a kind of interest in social issues,
but Doctor,
economic issues.
But the pandemic just told us you need your technocrats, you need your technicians, you need hands-on people in society. We need to close the gap. We need to make sure that your mason and your plumber and your electrician is making a good living to attract people to that as well.
Of course. And there's nothing wrong with being a plumber or mason.
No, sir.
I don't understand that. There's a real skill. You know, these are real skills. They are very critical. So whatever it is people could do, you help them to be the best that they can be in that. But you also give them a living. That is the point you're
Invest
making.
in human development.
Yes, you've got to allow people to pursue plumbing and make a good living, to have a decent living.
Now, when you were in government,
Yes.
I remember an MIC facility was open in Diamond Vale, and I was there for that opening. And I remember David Lee was running that.
Yeah.
And the idea behind it, because I was speaking to everybody who were involved in it, and the idea behind it was that if you were a mason but you've never been formally trained,
You could come in
you
there.
could come and have yourself assessed.
Yes.
And you
Yes,
could
it's
find
right.
out that you're a grade 1 mason and you've been selling yourself as a laborer all these years that you can mix concrete and put up some blocks. But you're actually a grade 1 mason.
Yes.
And that the salary for a grade 1 mason is X.
Yes.
Or that you're a welder that's missing these two skills. And if we train you to these two skills, you're a grade 1 welder, and I'm just using grade 1. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, whatever it is.
You need to be able to certify people so that when they go into the job market, they know what they're selling.
Yeah,
We should have been licensing mechanics, hairdressers, real estate agents. So the average person going to a mechanic, you're going to a licensed mechanic, that if this person rip you off and you could prove that they could lose their license, it becomes an important thing. That license brings business to them. I'm a licensed mechanic. Instead of looking for more ways to exploit our people, why aren't we back in there working to bring them up? Our farmers, you and I, Stephen Matheson, every show we talk about the farmers. But the farmers of this country could feed this country and begin the process of creating a whole industry. I mean, agriculture used to run Trinidad. Our roots is agriculture.
It comes back down to, if you're looking at a reset, it comes back down to a central vision. If we have a central vision and we map everything out strategically to meet those goals, then we would put things in place systematically to get there when we need to get there.
A vision about what you might call a brighter future, a more desirable future, a vision for greater sustainability and self-sustainability, which is where the whole world is going now, by the way. That is one of the reasons you have this big geopolitical war.
Yeah.
A vision of inclusion. You know, you can't be doing it for some. You can't be doing it on a partisan basis.
You can't be doing it on a 5-year basis.
All right, and you cannot be doing it on whatever basis that does not see all of your people as all of your people.
Indeed.
Exactly.
Well said. And that's the point. The Progressive Empowerment Party, I'm not pushing the party, I just saying that before we launched, we took years and we prepared 21 policies and we said, take a look at this. These could heavily impact society and the way the country is run. We looked at the important things that matter to everybody, no matter where you are, white collar, blue collar, no collar, home ownership, healthcare, the ability to educate your children, security of person and property, water, transportation. These things matter. Doc, we look at 250,000 people stuck in traffic in this country 30 years now, 40 years now. How difficult is it? How difficult was it to decentralize? And again, I want to go back to the pandemic. You talk about a reset. The pandemic gave us a reset. We went back to business as usual. But the pandemic showed us that a lot of the things that we think are essential to society could be run online.
But you in a way you point to the big problem, the big problems of this society, which is power and control, and the concentration of power and control in the hands of a few. Politically, and economic concentration of wealth in the hands of a few. And you cannot have democracy if you have that level of power and control in the hands of a few and powerlessness
Democracy in name only.
for the many.
Correct.
And you cannot have economic sustainability for individuals, families, communities, and for the society if you have economic concentration of wealth in the hands of a few. So the solution is not to take away the wealth from the people who have it, but to create an economic system in which all have access and can contribute and can basically make themselves self-sustainable.
Agreed.
All right, and build for generations.
Less handouts, more handouts.
Exactly. So you need to do that. And the second thing is that you have to take political power from the hands of a few. And you can only do that by constitutional reorganization to manage the power, distribute it, and more than that, to have the checks and balances to make sure that it works. And therefore, in these two areas, these two areas, one critical thing is necessary: the recognition of the full value of citizenship, and secondly, the principle of inclusion.
I want to say,
for both economic prosperity and political
Doc,
democracy.
I want to say, you are sounding like a pepper. Our slogan is one people under one flag. That's our slogan.
Yeah, well,
we have to be.
I don't want you to brand me. Right?
I just say you're sounding like a pepper. Don't get me wrong. No, Stephen is not a pepper. We like the conversation with independent minds and critical thinkers. But I'm saying to you that it has to start there.
No,
If we can't become one people rowing in the same direction, we're going nowhere. We time now nonsense politics breaking this country.
The funny thing is, as we have always said here, is that Trinidad and Tobago is just 1.3, 1.4 million
it's
people.
So small.
And there are countries, Doc, there are countries in the world with companies that have more citizens and more employees in it than we have as citizens in Trinidad and Tobago.
India Railway, right? McDonald's, Walmart.
Several of them, China National Bank, several of them. And the thing is,
of course,
the thing is, they have what is called HRS system. As you know, my profession is HR.
Yes.
They have HRS system and they know every single thing, where their employees are, how they're going, how they're developing, everything. We have a system.
Please run a ticker tape for Stephen Matheson Limited.
We have a system where in Trinidad and Tobago, with 1.4 million people, we don't know who is who. We don't know who are the people suffering. We don't know who are the people about to fall through the cracks. For COVID, we were still saying that when America was giving most of the people whatever aid, we were saying to people who are applying, who are their children under the staircase of other families to get internet to be in school, we had a minister saying a lot of the application was fraudulent.
Somebody said, and I remember, that you know how to find them at election time. You know how to mail out the voting card, mail the check there. Start there. Don't say that you don't know, and don't say that the system don't allow. Because when it matters to you, you know how to do it.
Yes.
Send the check where you send it.
I think that's a good point. I think that is a good point.
And that's the unfortunate thing about Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, it's just designed for some people and not others.
And we are going to miss out on the age of technology because we are going about it wrong. How many years now you hear people talking about the unique identifier? How many times this particular Prime Minister talk about it in his administration? But they do it in Estonia. That's how they did it. They created the identifier, and because of the identifier, since you simply type in your number, and you as a citizen are able to get anything you want about yourself because they have put it everything in. Yeah. And they have put enough privacy that another person can't come and see all your business
exactly.
either.
So you have blockchain technology
you have the challenge.
The problem in that is we are afraid of government abuse.
No,
we are afraid of government abuse because time after time that's what the government does. You think the Minister of Education, you think the Minister of Education doesn't know that it is 2 lanes of pitch separating a prestige school, Fatima College, from a failed school, Mokorapo? You think they don't know? I have been asking the question for decades. How could those 2 schools exist across the street from each other if
and be so bad?
If it is the same Minister of Education, if it is the same curriculum, if it is the same plan, the same money, the same teachers trained in college, how does one school fail?
I mean,
it comes down to management, though.
Yeah, it comes down to the way and it just raises the question that you can't solve the education problems in Trinidad and Tobago unless you deal with it on a school by school basis.
Absolutely.
Right? It can't be done as a central thing.
But Finland, that has the #1 standard education in the world.
Yes, of course.
They have no separation exam.
No.
They say leave all the children together and the strong will lead the weak, and that is how it should be done.
And they make sure everybody learns.
Nobody gets left behind. That's what it means.
Nobody is left behind. But look at this thing. You know, I'm talking about Estonia, but we are supposed to have a collaboration with Estonia. I don't know what's happening. But you have a situation where Tuvalu, I heard this on the BBC a couple of days ago, Tuvalu runs the risk of the next 50 years or so, they might have no land at all, right? The sea will cover everything, maybe in the next 100 years. You know what they are doing? They are creating a virtual nation. And they are creating a virtual nation just like you might say Estonia did it, all right, except that they might not have any land living space. And what they are doing is that they are using what you call that now, where you are able to replicate reality.
Artificial intelligence.
No, not
virtual reality.
Well, virtual reality. Metaverse. All right, where you are able to use artificial intelligence now to create the metaverse, and they are creating a metaverse that will allow them to retain what will essentially be the memory of what Tuvalu was, as well as all the cultural things that they have on location. They are doing that so that in the future, all right, 2 generations from now, when the islands no longer exist, the nation Tuvalu will exist.
Yes.
It will exist for all who wish to participate. There will be a visual representation and memory of it, and there will be a technological connection that will allow you. So look at the things people are doing, okay, with a little imagination using the technology that exists. Look at what Estonia has been able to achieve. The president of Estonia was in some other country the other day, and the situation arose for the appointment of a prime minister because the parliament had agreed on who would be prime minister. Mm-hmm. And she was abroad, and she do it digitally, and that was that. You know, I mean, I don't understand why in the Caribbean and why a country like Trinidad and Tobago with so many bright people, so many gifted people,
and has so many resources,
and has so many resources,
is excelling
so
in backwardness. We're excelling in backwardness.
Why are we so backward?
Because it's deliberate.
I am fed up of it.
But you asked the question just now, and I want to tell you the reason why we say the Constituency Board of Supervisors is because you shouldn't have one minister in Sinclair deciding when Point Fortin going to have their roads paved.
No, you need devolution of power.
If you have Point Fortin responsible for Point Fortin roads, you think Point Fortin roads looking like that? If Moruga, you think Moruga roads literally fall apart, fall into the sea. You think if Moruga was responsible for Moruga roads, it would have reached that far?
But the reason I raised the issue that I did is because to do that, you have to have also financial reforms. You need to. You need to address the. You need to address the whole
Trinidad
of budgeting differently.
No, but exactly. Trinidad has desalination plants. A country that gets more rain from the sky for free than we could use. It drowns the country every year. Every year, a segment of Trinidad drowns with rainwater. Yeah. 6 months out of the year, more rain falls on this country than we can ever use. Capture, hold, treat, distribute.
Fed up
it is ridiculous. $500 million a year we're spending desalinating seawater, but we're catching the rainwater and throwing it in the sea. We look foolish.
No, you need to collect all the water in the rainy season.
And
for
use
the entire year, that's all.
I mean, that is so.
And you will have more than you need anyway. You know, you'll have more than you need.
Doc, we could never, if we capture the rainwater that falls on this country, we could never use all of it. If everybody leave their hose running whole day, whole night. Trinidad is a wet country.
Yeah, it's an abundant country.
I tell people we have a
not like Guyana, but we still have.
But Guyana just built an artificial island. Guyana just built an artificial island. Jamaica just raised their minimum wage 44%. I am following all of these countries. I watch Bahamas. I watch the numbers that they're doing with tourism alone.
Yeah, they're making so much money with tourism, foreign exchange, and we will not do anything with it.
But look at what Carnival is worth to New Orleans. Look at what it is worth to Brazil. The Carnival, we compare our Carnival to Rio Carnival. That is not the comparison, you know. There are little community carnivals that take place all through the year. in Brazil that leads up to Rio, you know. We are like those little carnivals. Rio is a massively, it is a huge production, and it is choreographed and it is organized. We just have organized naked chaos. And we call that a tourist product. We don't attract tourists. 90% of the people who come to Trinidad for Carnival is Trinidadians that living abroad and missing home, that come to wind our David Rudder song. We're not capitalizing on that. Our agriculture, and I do not want to sound like I am preaching to people who know, and I know that you know more about this than me. But if you look at food production and agro-processing and where we could play in that, our avocado, our mango, Jamaica exporting mango, we have Julie mango. Mexico exporting avocado, we have Pollock avocado, the best avocado in the world.
I agree with you on that. And the agriculture thing, I didn't say anything about it because we went on to something else. But I think we've made a terrible mistake for 60 years. And we are making the same mistake again by not really making ourselves as self-sufficient as we can in food production. It would make a difference in the import bill. It will boost exports. It will link into the
create jobs.
Agro-processing industry.
Create entrepreneurs,
we
create
could integrate
jobs.
Some of the Venezuelans into that.
Join the global food exchange
export
program.
Markets with it. With tourism, we could link agricultural production to the taste pattern in foods for the tourists to give them some
downstream
variety.
We could focus on
our
so natural
we're missing
cuisine
the boat in agriculture.
Take those things.
We're missing
I want to tell you something. Kurma. I see a little company in Trinidad putting out coconut kurma, ginger kurma, cinnamon. You see
making variety.
You see it?
Yes, of course.
That the snack food market is a multi-billion dollar.
That is true, and all you have to do is to be a little creative.
But you need to jump in and support those people.
Yes,
I was
exactly.
I was on an interview with Robert Amar today.
But
and
we are not supporting any small or medium
exactly,
businesses
I was talking to Robert Amar today, and he was surprised. He didn't know that Michelle Sohan, the owner of Bakery Treats in Chaguanas, is the #1 gold medal cake decorator in the world. She went Italy, she went France, she went England, she went Spain, and every single year she beat the world. And she said, we lost her, you know, she gone. She left. She said she can't take it no more, she's not well. And she gone from Trinidad now. Robert Amar didn't know because the Minister of Trade didn't know and the Minister of Education didn't know, and we didn't say.
And they don't want to know.
This is somebody that we could say, okay, look, let us now open schools. If she could be the best in the world is looking here. You want to talk, how do we get eyeballs on Trinidad? A Trinidadian is the best in the world at cake decorating. They have shows all over Food Network and Cooking Channel about that. We have the best in the world. Why we didn't give her the opportunity to train people with what she knows, set up opportunities in schools, because other people would have liked to get there. And that's just one example, but look at the amount of things that are available to us if we wanted to. If we wanted to invest in the people, go to the banks and see how difficult it is for people to get credit in a country where the banks pay you 0% interest on your money and charge you fees to hold your money.
Yeah. Look, I told you I would stay here until about 6 o'clock, so I've got to leave you.
Then you have to give us closing comments, Dr. Botiwari.
Yeah, so I want to, I mean, you raised the whole business of, we talked a lot about Trinidad and Tobago, the politics, the constitution, the economics, the decentralization versus decentralization. But in closing there, you raised the whole banking thing. And that I just want to mention 3 or 4 things that are happening globally that are going to have implications for us that we cannot avoid, but we cannot really deal with unless we prepare for it, you know. You started with the banking, so I will say what is happening in the financial sector now and affecting so many things and trying to be contained in Europe and the United States. Ultimately, in at least one area, it will have implications for us, because what is going to happen is they are going to tighten supervision of the banking and possibly the financial sector. And that is going to have implications here for Trinidad and Tobago. And ultimately is going to have implications for the relationship between the bank and its customers, who are already having trouble with the banks here. So I mentioned that, and it is something that we are going to have to manage. The second thing is that we have to recognize what is happening geopolitically in the world and how the world is transforming. All right, while you have the United States operating in Ukraine, supporting the Ukrainians against the Russians and so on, and you have the United States basically now, I would say, not as strong in its relations in this Western Hemisphere as it used to be at one point in time. You have a situation where new alliances are being made. You had the Saudi Arabia alliance with Iran. Iran has relations with Venezuela here in Trinidad and next to Trinidad and Tobago. You have Russia and China basically forging an alliance. You have runaway countries like North Korea and to some extent Iran that basically
India
go on their own, so to speak. You have the movement of the BRICS to form a new alliance to leave out the US dollar, to trade among themselves, to think their currencies and so on. And you have India emerging as the next powerful country in the world economically, because the next decade is seen to be India's decade.
I was trying to find a video of the Indian Prime Minister. That's what I was scrolling for.
Yeah.
I was trying to find, because in about 5 minutes, he encapsulated India's position now and where it will be in 30 years.
Yes.
And it's an amazing
and this
thing
is
to hear.
they are going to make this
their vision is similar to China.
Their
50 years ago.
I said this morning,
so those
India
are things
and
we need
Africa
to
were
watch.
link.
All the geopolitics, all the economics that is changing, and things we need to watch. The third thing is this: the importance of AI and all its implications.
Yes.
Everything is going to be done by AI.
Yes.
I saw on Bloomberg yesterday a guy for one of these restaurants, a little better than usual fast food restaurant, talking about how they are using AI in their restaurants. And he says, we have used AI to create the conditions now where every one of us, our stores, do $1 million worth of business online. So if they have, let's say, if they have 20,000 stores across the United States, each one of them makes $1 million. I don't know if he was saying a year or a month.
Well, that's 20,000 stores, that's $20 billion.
Right? And he said that they were doing that because they had introduced AI everywhere. They've done the same systems everywhere. And they are now doing that. And this is online only. They're selling directly to people. That is another set of money. So I think if we don't kind of try to understand what is happening with AI and robotics and all these kinds of things. So it is not something to fear, it's something to plan for, something to organize.
Plan for.
All right? You have to organize yourself.
Organize yourself for exposure. If
you know we have
coming.
coasts, we have plenty water, that is a good. All right? I mean, when I was minister, I started this microzonation thing. So we have about 3 or 4 areas in which they have all the meticulous details about earthquakes in Trinidad and Tobago. And they were supposed to do 10, so I imagine they will get there eventually. So these basic things, you know, climate change and sustainable development, AI, the other things I mentioned, they are very, very critical for us, and they are the future, you know. And don't forget that development is about people at the end of the day. You could say what you want about China, and it is an authoritarian state, and it is a place in which the party controls everything. But what they are doing is developing the place so that people could be lifted.
Exactly.
You know, and so people could have a better life. And
Quality of life in China.
You're talking about millions. And if we have 1.4 million people, which is a little village in China, a little village in India, a little village in Nigeria, all of the Caribbean is equal to the size of the population in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, why are we so backward and find it so impossible to do things to
Doc, I know you're running out of time, but I want to ask you a question.
I think
that backwardness is deliberate.
I think it's partly deliberate.
But it also have to do with something you said earlier on.
What?
We built Trinidad and Tobago on a model that sort of mirrored that kind of English system that was once a kind of, when they ruled these kind of nations, was a kind of divide and rule, was a kind of system.
Absolutely.
That's how
Trinidad and Tobago could teach the world about divide and rule.
Yeah. Well, so we never came out of that mold, and that mold is destroying us.
Doc, I want to thank you very much for coming. I mean, Saturday, I don't know if you're busy Saturday, 5 o'clock, we are in Ramsaran Street in Chaguanas. I'm sure the public would like
I'm not going on any political.
You don't have to go on any podium. Just pass through, you know, and
all right,
open mic.
I did this because we talked and you wanted to have a conversation. I have no problem with talking to politicians or anybody else on anything. I have no problem with talking to anybody about anything. I have no problem with talking to the population about things I know. And if I don't know, I will try and find out or ask and say I don't know. But I've spent a long life in politics, and I really feel that I don't want to be involved in partisan politics as such again. If the country can summon the will to basically create a movement in this country that could put Trinidad and Tobago first, I will be the first to offer to help.
Thank you very, very much. Stephen Matterson, give us some closing comments.
Yeah, I enjoyed this conversation. It was rather intellectual today, but it pointed a lot to some of the inherent challenges and some of the inherent, I would say, weaknesses of the type of system we operate within, and also our political system. And that, to a large extent, has to be where the conversation begins. Because if we could explore the weaknesses, we could explore some of the challenges, we could explore some of the things that need to fix this country, then as a political organization, you yourself, Mr. Alexander, we can design a system that could go around all of that and solve the problems in Trinidad and Tobago.
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, strengths. That's what we're talking about. How do we identify where we are and where we want to go? How do we get there? Dr. Bo Tiwari, his ideas, we've heard him for decades. His ideas, that I was talking to him before he came on air about the Tapia House movement and the intellectual contribution that they made. And I think we just deliberately avoiding the facts that we know exist as to how to fix the country. It's not a shortage of information, it's not a shortage of people, it's a shortage of political will. And we're not going to fix that until the people come together as one people under one flag. And that's happening this Saturday, 5 p.m., Ramsaran Street, Chaguanas, opposite Price Club, next to 2001 Carpet House. See you there. Stay safe, Trinidad and Tobago. Let's talk jobs. Let's talk housing. Let's talk security. Let's talk water. Let's talk roads. Let's talk the price of food and the stresses affecting farmers, the stresses affecting vendors, the conditions of our markets. Let us discuss the national infrastructure. This is Phillip Edward Alexander inviting you to join us on March 25th at Ramsaran Street from 5 p.m. so that we can discuss the issues that affect your life and make Trinidad and Tobago better for all of us.
One people. P.